HLC approval, I have to say that, but we are really excited because we saw such a need, and so we could send all of the interns and all of the graduates from Rose and everybody from OU and OSU and every other entity in the state, and it's still not enough to fill the capacity and the need that everyone has. And so, so we hear that from them, and we are trying to build those programs as quickly as we can.
So Eddie, what about the career tech system?
Well, in career tech, we work with our high schools. We get high school students to come to our career techs. So we're able to reach out to them. We have counselors in the schools, ascending schools, and that gives us that opportunity to reach down and get those individuals and start early with them. I alluded to the pre-engineering that we have, and I can give an example. We have several pre-engineering courses throughout the career tech to help feed into the universities, but we have one particular here in Oklahoma City area, Francis Tuttle, and I was at a panel about 6 months ago, and I said they had 6 patents, the high school students, and I was told, no, they don't, they have 12. So they're able to go through the whole GD&T process and understand that in high school. They get their math and everything then, so when they do get into schools, it works out for them. We also have a reciprocal agreement with Rose State that our A&P or FAA certified licensed schools, when they finish that, they can transfer those credits over to Rose State and continue on. So those are some of the things we do at that level. But we really have the opportunity in career tech to go down to the elementary school level and talk to those individuals and bring them up earlier and get them interested, and then we can start those courses. We're always looking at innovations, we're always looking at technologies, and we have to figure out the right thing to do. I don't want to teach a student how to fix an iPhone 5 when we're on iPhone 14. I need to teach them the basic principles of a cell phone or how to do the electronics. I don't need to teach them that, so that when they get there, they can work on whatever we get them with a little bit of training. So that's where we try to make sure we manage that, because I'll give you a prime example. Composites. It sounds like there's a huge need for composites, and there is. It's just not here yet. It will come, but as it stands now, you know, the workload that we do in composites at our aerospace industries is relatively small, unless you're at Kratos. That's only one company. And we're able to start that course, we're able to feed those students through like Kratos, learn from them what we can do better in that composite course. So when it becomes more needed across the whole industry in the future, we'll be ready to go.
It's a great segue and kind of something that we in the innovation sphere sometimes talk about is we talk about STEM majors oftentimes and really focus on them coming out of our higher education institutions with that broad-based theoretical knowledge. Whereas you're talking about having a career tech system that's getting them that really practical hands-on skills. So for our partners that are doing the research and development and innovation institutes, how are you actually bridging and weighing the crossover between theoretical knowledge and the actual practical hands-on abilities that our future employers and industry partners need?
So for us, it really comes down to real-world applications through actual problem solving. Large-scale projects, the way that we're set up is we can field commercial projects with commercial customers, federal customers, military customers, et cetera, and we're able to bring in all of these different resources from within our organization and from the ecosystem itself to come together to solve these problems. It's honestly the best way to balance what is theoretical by having the reach back of the university to solve things, but also that real-world application, and in addition, training students and training the workforce to be able to handle getting the theoretical side married to the actual practical application side.
And I would certainly second that, Victoria. I'd also add that the ability to engage students, both at the undergrad and the graduate level, in real-world research, you know, is very, very important. We're pretty proud of the fact that I think at OU we've done that very well, and we're continuing to improve in that, don't get me wrong, but I think we're off to a great start in that regard. We have a number of projects that we do with various government entities, including the Air Logistics Complex and the 448th. And in each case, we have student researchers who are part of that team. Again, both undergraduate or graduate level. And I think that's absolutely crucial. I'll give you a side story. We do a monthly or bi-monthly review on each of the many projects with the Tinker team. I was listening into one a couple weeks ago, and our primary investigator, the faculty lead on that, was lamenting the fact that his two key researchers, because this project goes over a couple of years, his two key researchers had graduated, and he was now recruiting a couple other student researchers. And as the discussion went on, it turned out both of those had gone on to engineering jobs at Tinker Air Force Base. So, we went from lamenting this fact to, no, this is a win. This is a real win, and that's what we seek to do. So that's a perfect example of bridging that gap, I think. I'll add one other thing, and this is OADI specific. When we stood up the organization a couple years ago, we had a long series of discussions about how we'd organize. And would we be a university entity? Would we be a 501c3? And I can give you strong arguments on both sides. There's pros and cons of each. This is not an easy decision, and there are examples out there of successes in both cases. At the time, and this may not be the long-term answer. Years from now, this could change. But at the time, we ultimately opted to stay as a university entity, and the overriding concern in that was to retain the strong tie with the educational mission of the university. And that was really the determining factor in that decision. I'll leave it at that.
Awesome. So those of you that are not aware, OCAST, we are a state agency that works to diversify Oklahoma's economy. In essence, we try to create new industries for the state. And I know each of you have mentioned in passing at some point in time emerging technologies within the state and within the areas of research that you're working on. So how are those emerging technologies, AIs, we were talking about in the green room, ChatGPT, drones, autonomous systems, how are those changing the skill sets that the workforce that you're producing needs? And then what does that look like kind of going forward in the future?
I'll lead off on that. We may want to turn that around to the audience because they're the ones that are impacted by this each and every day, and they see the effects of new and emerging technologies, on almost a daily basis. I will say at OADI when we established we established 4 focus areas. One of those was advanced technologies. We felt that if we were going to be a significant player in aerospace and defense research and innovation, that we needed to play in those areas. Many of the technologies that you mentioned. Obviously, no one can cover everything there, and there's going to be pockets of excellence. So we're focused on a few. One of the things we are doing, we are standing up a advanced manufacturing laboratory, a working laboratory not actually on the OU campus, but in North Norman. And that's in partnership with the Air Logistics Complex REACT Lab, the reverse engineering lab, and also GE Additive. And so we're very close to doing the ribbon cutting on that. And I think that's certainly an example of where the university's headed regarding advanced technologies and relating that to real-world needs. And I think the partnership with Tinker in that regard is quite significant.
Whitney, how about Rose State?
I'll echo the additive manufacturing piece because, well, we're taking it from a totally different angle, right? And I think this is just a perfect pairing example of what OU does really well and what some place like Rose State does really well. But we too have a really strong additive manufacturing training program, but we are training to the end user, to the person who knows how to use the machine, the person who knows how to take that file and upload it and tinker with the machine, no pun intended. But one of our professors actually works part-time in the REACT lab. So he's an engineering professor and he works over there. And so he knows, although he can't take what he is privy to in the REACT lab, with him. It is in his head, and so he knows that he is teaching our students the practical hands-on skills that they will need. And we too lost our rock star lab technician, actually to Boeing, not to Tinker this year. But from a drone perspective, we have created an aviation management associate's degree. Inside of that is drone programming. We have a 2-day workforce class that is for drone mapping, and so we have a lot of people. It's not targeted to our students on the academic side. It's actually targeted just for the general public, so anybody can sign up for it. But at the end of it, they should be able to sit for their FAA Part 107 after a little bit of studying. And with the micro-credential program, they then get reimbursed for the cost of the class and their FAA Part 107. And so that is right in line with the students who are in the academic class as well. We had our first cohort of them go through the class this spring, and the flood of reimbursements, you know, cash is king. So it was amazing. I mean, that was basically their final in that class, was to pass their FAA 107. So we are ramping up with technology, and ChatGPT is, I think it's a tool. That's what we were talking about back there, but I think it's today's calculator, so.
Yeah. These are revolutionary technologies. They're going to change the landscape of not just aerospace, but a multitude of industries. And preparing our workforce and preparing an entire community of people to be ready to take on what that challenge looks like is exactly why we're all up here working to build this ecosystem. It definitely is something where with OAIR, we've been able to start setting up not just the training, which is absolutely vital, and getting those connections between students and industry, but also testing arenas for what not only the technology is going to be, but the adoption of the technology. There are a lot of answers to how this future can look, and a lot of that depends on how we start to shape it and what architecture is being put into place now that will affect us for years and decades to come. So with our Advanced Air Mobility Research Center, we're also including a drone testing flight facility. We have a few across the state where we're trying to set up more permissions to be able to really fully test and pull together different types of technologies so that there can be intercomparison between the testing that's being done now and what will be done in the next few years to help shape what that looks like.
Awesome.
So in career tech, this is one of the exciting subjects, I think. I like the idea of the technology and what you're doing in career tech. And like I said earlier, you know, it's difficult because as you learn on a piece of equipment or something, it changes in a year because the technology is moving so fast. So I'll give you a prime example. Let's talk about 3D printing. In career tech, what we would do is we would teach our students how to build a 3D printer. And then we would teach them how to calibrate that 3D printer because that gives them that basic knowledge that they can understand. Now that they move on to another 3D printer, they understand exactly how it works, how it functions, what it has to do because they've learned how to build one. And then when they go to the next one, all they have to do is learn that changes. So that's what we've done with that. In the space realm, with OSIDA, we had a conversation. We talked about what if we get space business out here on the west side of the state, and how would we get the workforce? So we went out and we met with an organization called Space Tech, which is a credentialing organization that was developed after the Challenger disaster because there was no credentials for people that worked at NASA that worked on those things. So now they have credentials, and we have that relationship to say, I don't need 20 students today in a course to learn how to work on all the different fuels and things that go into a space aircraft, but I can make one phone call, and within a week, I got curriculum, and we can go and do space. So then we looked at the UAVs. We said, okay, most people buy their UAVs from Best Buy or a similar organization, and then they go up, and it flies 40 feet. The wind catches it. They never see it again, and they don't get it fixed. If they do get it back, they're going to take it and probably buy a new drone. There's one company in the whole state of Oklahoma that really does most of the maintenance on the smaller drones, and everything else is sent away, so there wasn't a need to build that workforce. But what we did realize is that once we get to the point where they're over 55 pounds and they start flying them into national airspace, there's going to have to be some kind of FAA-approved maintenance. So we went and did the search, and we found a place in Thief River Falls, Minnesota, that when everyone was doing the grants in 2008 to build interstates and everything, because we were getting America to come back after the 2008 disaster, they got grants and they built a UAV school that they put on the back of their A&P school. So I was able to go up there and visit several times. You have to like walleye, by the way, to go to Minnesota. I didn't know that. They have it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But we have an agreement with them now that that UAV curriculum will be given to us when we need it. There's no need to have it now. We're a member with them. And when we need it, we can get that curriculum and we can teach that course for the planes. Now, it's not an FAA-approved course because you can't have an FAA-approved curriculum for a rule that doesn't exist. So we have to wait for the rule, but the FAA has inspected the program, looked at it, and said, we feel like this is what it would look like if we were to have, so we were able to go out and have those agreements in place, so when that time comes, we can just pull that stuff off the shelf. On top of that, we have around 220 or 30 customized courses in aviation. And we're able to give those courses out like high reliable soldering or something like that to work on circuit cards. And then when you don't need it, we just put it back on the shelf. And then when it comes back around or something happens and you need that particular part of training, then we're able to take that off. As far as our courses go, the nice thing about us is our accrediting agency is Oklahoma Department of Career Tech. So we go out and do all the tech centers and we do their accreditations, and then we go to the Department of Education and we get the accreditation to be the accreditor. So that makes our process of accrediting courses really quick. So when you look at, let's say, Stellar Explorer and Cyber Patriot, some Air Force Association courses in cybersecurity, and Stellar Explorer is working with the logistics software for NASA. There were competitions, but we were able to get those as credits in the Career Tech and get those aligned so that we could get students in those competitions and work on those technologies so when they do get into the schools, they have that experience.
Awesome.
That's just a few examples. I could go on for quite some time, but there's a clock over there.
So one thing that I think I have heard, and the audience would probably agree that we've heard, is each of our institutions very much exist to serve the clients and the industries within the state. And so I'm going to ask a question that wasn't in the original notes, so don't be mad at me.
All right.
But we all know that innovation and true innovation is best served from interdisciplinary connections and collaborations. It's that diversity and the difference in experience, thought, background. And each of us bring to the table different collaborations to build out the programs that we have. But I want to reverse the question and go, for your organization to become more innovative, what collaborations that might exist in this room could you use to make your institution better at what it does today? So I'm going to give you a second to think about that.
Well, I can get started if you need.
Go ahead.
I always have an answer. I might not be right, but I have
And
one.
this is for those of you in the audience, if you meet these, make sure you come find the panelists to make this connection happen.
Our deal is the industry input, working with the industry. It's hard sometimes to get the industry to help us with equipment. I can't afford some of the equipment the industry has. And it's nice to get our students and stuff in there. We have a intern project program we're working. We did it this summer with Boeing, and that was great because it gave those students the opportunity in the summer to go work work for something Express, was it Personnel Express or whatever, so there's no insurance issues, and then they actually work for Boeing and they can work with the people there for the summer, and they get that experience and they take that back to high school, and then they tell all the high school students what they did, and then the program grows and grows and grows, and we need that across all the industries. It becomes challenging with high school students because of the age, but we found some ways to work around that, and we want to continue to build those relationships and give them that opportunity because, well, everyone's been to Tinker. They've seen some of the equipment they have there. That's not the kind of equipment you're going to see in a career tech center. The other thing is we do a lot of propulsion training, and I don't know if you know, but I will tell you that I haven't found a jet yet that I could get at Walmart. So a jet engine. So that becomes, hard for us, and sometimes our technologies like bypass engines would be a dream to have the train off of, but that's just something that's not going to happen, because now, that being said, our biggest customer doesn't have a whole lot of bypass engines, so we do train, similar to that. But those are the challenges that we would have and opportunities that we'd like to see, is that relation between industry and our students, mainly so they could experience those things that we couldn't afford to have at a tech center.
Awesome.
I probably shouldn't have let the chief go first, because that was I would agree with the fundamental underpinning of Eddie's comments about the relationship with industry, and I include in that the whole customer base, which of course includes Tinker Air Force Base, the Air Logistics Complex, the Supply Chain Management Wing, the Sustainment Center, et cetera. A few nuances in that regard, although I know this is true for the career tech system as well. We shape our programs based on perceived needs. I mean, the governor talked about that yesterday, and that's what we do. We all do. I think everybody up here would agree to that. So the better communication and the better we understand your emerging needs, the better we can react to that. And the universities are reacting to current perceived needs. I'll give you an example, and again, I go back to Governor Stitt's comments yesterday, and something we hear all the time from Tinker, from our industry partners, is the need for more engineers, and OSU hears it as well, and we all do. So OU is on a path to grow our engineering college by 40%. We're well down that path. A few years ago, the faculty count at the engineering college was 115. Today, it's 164, on its way to 170. There's a commensurate growth in terms of students, of facilities, laboratories, on and on. And this is at a time when college and university enrollment nationally is declining. Okay, so that's significant. And that is in response to, pleas from, all those entities I named to produce more engineers and in specific disciplines. So, we hear that and we do react. Now, is that reactive? Yes. But, it can be, we can turn this and understand the upcoming needs. So I think that's significant in that regard. Likewise, relative, I could say the same thing relative to technologies, areas of study, et cetera, not just a numbers game. It goes well beyond that.
Awesome. Victoria, Whitney?
I echo everything that you've said. To add, we're looking for complicated problems to solve. What our institute is set up to do is pull a lot of different and varied resources together to solve what those problems are. And by doing that, there will be more development in workforce, more development in building the ecosystem from the ground up. With our investment in being a group of engineers looking for applications that will tie together emerging technologies, pulling them together with more traditional aerospace, and maintaining that same expectation of safety and excellence across both of those. It's a complicated problem, and that's really what we're hungry to see, so that we can then get more connected.
I can think of a couple of specific things. So mine will not be perhaps as grandiose as some of the research entities, but we are starting a private pilot's license program, and we have, inside of the workforce department, we have received funding from the Federal Department of Labor, Federal Department of Education, and this morning from the Oklahoma Aeronautics Commission to buy 10 flight simulators. We're gonna need instructors. So maybe there's somebody in this room who can help teach for me. If not, I feel certain that somebody in this room knows somebody who can help teach for me. So we would be super interested in talking to anybody there. If anybody was in here for Leisha's discussion earlier, talking about the career fair for her entity, was actually at Rose State, and we had 800 plus people, like she said, line out the door. We have realized that a lot of students don't know that the internship rotation starts in the fall. It does not start in March. And so as everyone is needing more interns so that they have a pool to pull from for engineers and everything else, We are actually having an internship fair at Rose in October to try to help you fill those needs. So workforce.rose.edu, you can sign up for the internship fairs. We're trying to help there. And I think just what other people have echoed is, like, we need your partnership. And so whether that is coming in for 10 minutes to be a guest speaker in our kids' college program, to get that third grader really interested in doing something in aerospace. I mean, I think Eddie could tell you, and a whole lot of statistics could tell you, that if you catch them in the third grade, you almost have them. And so if it's something that simple, if you're willing to come teach freshmen at a community college, an engineering intro class, one of the four of us up here can find a way to integrate you. Come be a guest speaker in a class. It's really important to our programming.
Wonderful. Well, we want to give you back a little bit of time. We thank you for your participation in today's panel, and for those of you in the audience for showing interest. You've heard what our partners up here are looking for, and I'm going to use Victoria's words. If you have a complicated problem, find one of our panelists or myself and let us help you solve it. That's what we're here to do. We're here to help make you a success and identify some of the innovation in the workforce to keep this area moving forward that's beneficial for everyone. So thank you all for your time and your partnership and your collaborations.
Bet. Hey, I will say this. Wait a second. One thing. If you have a child, if you have a friend, or you have a family that has a friend and you want that room and you would like them to leave, please send them to the Career Tech to get their A&P license. We have plenty of room in those schools, but still, even though we've increased. So it's a great career, and it's 18 months, and we can get them out of your man shack, she shed, or whatever, and get them on down the road. So thank you.
It is truly incredible what our education systems are doing in Oklahoma. To conclude today, we would like to thank each of our speakers and guests for being with us. Please join us tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. for breakfast, hosted by the University of Tennessee Haslam College of Business. The program will begin at 9. Please be here. We'll have another great day at Tinkering the Primes. Thank you so much for being here today.